The cry and the wreckage. The wind howled through the forest. Trees creaked and leaves rustled. Ray, a middle-aged scavenger, moved slowly over the muddy ground, his boots sinking with each step. He carried a small light and a metal detector, searching for anything valuable. This forest was near the old war zones, crashed alien ships, broken tech, and sometimes things people weren't supposed to find. Ray's eyes caught something strange in the distance. Smoke. Not fresh, but not old either. He followed the trail carefully until he saw it, a half-buried alien ship. It was small, sharp-edged, and deep blue with glowing cracks. It had crashed recently, no humans around, no rescue signs. He walked closer, his heart beating faster. Maybe there was something valuable inside. Suddenly, he froze. From deep inside the ship came a sound. It wasn't a machine. It wasn't wind. It was a cry, a low, soft cry, like a wounded animal. Ray took a step back. What the hell? He waited. The cry came again, broken, sad, scared. Against his better judgment, he climbed into the wreck. The ship creaked. Metal groaned under his weight. His flashlight flicked across dark, twisted corridors, broken screens, and shattered glass. Then, he saw it. A small creature was trapped under a piece of metal. It was bleeding. Its dark fur was covered in ash. Long claws twitched weakly. Its yellow eyes were open, staring at him. But not with hate. With fear. Ray whispered, "You're just a cub." The creature growled faintly, but it didn't attack. It looked hurt, hungry, afraid. Ray looked around. No other signs of life, just this one little predator, alone. His instincts screamed, "Leave it." Alien predators were dangerous. People had died from one bite. But something stopped him. The way the cub looked at him like it wanted help. Ray bent down. "I'm not going to hurt you." The cub didn't move. Ray slowly pushed the metal piece off its back. The creature whimpered. Blood leaked from a wound on its side. It tried to stand but collapsed again. He looked at the tiny thing, then muttered, "You're gonna get me killed, aren't you?" But still he took off his coat, gently wrapped the cub in it, and carried it back through the wreckage. At his cabin, Ray cleaned the cub's wounds using what supplies he had. It never bit him. It didn't growl again either, it just watched him. Silent. Alert. Ray gave it some warm broth. At first, the cub sniffed it like it was poison. Then, slowly, it drank. A low purring sound came from its throat. It didn't sound like anger. It sounded thankful. Ray raised an eyebrow. "You're not like the others, are you?" He built a small bed from an old toolbox and a blanket. The cub curled up into a tight ball. Its breathing slowed. It fell asleep fast, like it hadn't rested in days. Ray sat nearby, arms crossed. "What am I doing? This thing could eat me the second it's strong." But even as he said that, he couldn't look away. The little predator looked peaceful now. Almost gentle. Outside, wind shook the trees. The world was cold and cruel. Inside, something new was growing. A strange bond. A connection. 3 days passed. The cub healed fast. Ray had started calling it Spick. Its claws were sharper now, teeth longer, but it never attacked, not once. It followed Ray like a shadow. Sat beside him while he worked. Watched him while he cooked. Sometimes at night, Spick would whimper in its sleep, like it remembered something bad. Ray always woke up and sat beside it, calming the little creature with soft words. One morning, Ray turned on the news feed from his old radio. A robotic voice read out alerts. Royal Empress of Zalvir requests urgent return of her lost pet. Subject is an elite predator cub, last seen in the outer galaxy near Earth. Anyone found harboring it will be punished. Ray froze. He looked over. Spick was sitting by the window, looking up at the white sky, the Empress's pet. He looked at the claw marks on his wall. The strength Spick was starting to show. It wasn't just a cub. It was royalty, and Ray had taken it in. Ray didn't sleep much after hearing the news. The radio alert kept repeating in his head. Elite, predator cub, property of the Empress of Zalvir, dangerous, near reward or punishment. He looked at Spike. The alien cub was sleeping near the wood stove, curled tightly, chest rising and falling with calm breaths. Its dark fur shimmered in the firelight. The wounds had closed, but the golden eyes, they were still watching everything. Ray scratched his chin. You're not just some lost animal, are you? Spick opened one eye as if it understood. The next morning, Ray tried to act normal. He made food like always. Eggs, dried beans, some broth. He placed a bowl in front of Spick. The cub sniffed it, but turned away. Ray raised an eyebrow. Too human for you? He opened a storage locker and pulled out raw meat he had stored for emergencies. He sliced it and placed it on a plate near Spick. The cub moved fast, too fast. In seconds, the meat was gone. Ray stepped back, heart pounding. All right, you're still a predator. But Spick didn't growl. Instead, it licked its claws, then slowly walked toward Ray and sat down like a dog waiting for approval. Ray stared at it. You're learning. Over the next few days, something strange happened. Spick began following Ray around the house. It watched everything. How he lit fires, how he fixed machines, how he cleaned tools. It didn't just watch, it mimicked. Ray once dropped a wrench, and Spick picked it up in its teeth, offering it back. When Ray planted seeds in his garden, Spike used its claws to dig little holes too. The predator was learning. Fast, too fast. One night, Ray sat near the stove and stared at the cub. You're not just some royal pet. You're something else. Spike tilted its head. Later that week, things got worse. A strange ship flew over the forest, silent, silver, and low. Ray saw it from his window. It didn't look like Earth tech. He quickly turned off the lights and pulled Spick close. The cub didn't resist. It stayed quiet, its ears twitching. Someone searching, Ray whispered. The ship flew away, but Ray's fear stayed. They weren't just looking, they were hunting. The next day, someone knocked on the door. Ray grabbed his old rifle. He opened the door slowly. A tall man stood there, clean clothes, silver badge, Galactic Scout Division. Citizen, the man said. We're looking for a missing asset. Crashed ship not far from here. Did you see anything? Ray kept his face calm. No, just trees and mud. The scout scanned Ray's face. If you find anything, even a footprint, report it. Dangerous creature, belongs to a powerful owner. Ray nodded. Got it. The man left. As soon as the door closed, Spick jumped into Ray's arms, trembling. Ray looked down, surprised. You were listening, weren't you? Spick buried its head in Ray's chest. That night, Ray couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling. Spick curled beside him on the floor. They want you back, he said softly, but I don't think you want to go. The cub looked up at him with glowing golden eyes, and then for the first time it spoke, not in words, but in a sound, a soft humming growl, a kind of whisper Ray had never heard before. Gentle, emotional, Bond. Ray swallowed hard. You're not just royal, you're alone. The next morning, Ray woke to find Spick guarding the door, claws out, eyes locked. There were tracks outside. Not animal, not human. Alien. Ray checked his traps. Someone had cut them open. As if searching, he rushed back inside. We're not safe anymore, Spick growled. Ray looked at the creature he had saved. It was growing stronger, sharper, and somehow more loyal. All right, he whispered, grabbing supplies. If they want you, they'll have to go through me first. But deep in the forest, someone else was watching. A tall figure in red armor pressed a button on her wrist. Target is alive, hidden by human, requesting orders from the Empress. A voice crackled through the device. Do not engage. The Predator cub must be retrieved intact. The Empress wants it back. The figure nodded. Soon, night fell like a black curtain over the forest, but Ray didn't sleep. He sat by the window, rifle in hand, eyes scanning the trees. The cabin was dark, quiet, too quiet. Even the birds had stopped singing. Spick lay curled near the fire, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. It wasn't asleep. It was listening too. Something was coming. Ray could feel it in his bones. Hours earlier, Ray had found strange signs in the woods, burnt branches, footprints that sank too deep in the earth like someone heavy had passed through, and near the garden a deep claw mark across his metal fence. Not Spick's claw, something bigger. Suddenly a noise. Click. Then another. Click. Click. Snap. Ray stood fast, heart pounding. He turned off the lantern and crouched beside the door, motioning. To Spick, the cub moved silently to his side, low to the ground, teeth bared. Outside, shadows moved. Then, a voice. Mechanical. Cold. This is Scout Hunter Theta 9. Life form confirmed inside. Begin breach protocol. Ray's eyes widened. There. Here. A red beam cut through his front door. Ray rolled away just in time as the door exploded in. 3 tall alien hunters in armor stepped in. They looked like statues, gleaming red and silver with no faces, only black glass visors. Spick growled low and deep. It wasn't fear. It was warning. One of the hunters raised a blaster. Ray fired first. Boom! His shot hit one in the chest, making sparks fly. The hunter stumbled, but didn't fall. Another fired at Ray. He ducked behind the table. Wood shattered above his head. Run, Spick! Ray shouted, but the cub didn't run. It leapt, straight at the hunter, claws out, fangs bared. It moved like lightning. The armored alien slammed into the wall. Spick landed on all fours, snarling. Ray fired again, this time hitting the second attacker's leg. The third hunter turned to escape, speaking into a wrist device. Warning, predator cub is active, too strong. Request backup immediately. Spick growled again, but this time something changed. The air shimmered. A strange pulse came from its body, a sound like metal and wind. The hunters froze. Their visors cracked. Then, silence. The 3 fell to the ground. Not dead, just offline. Ray stared, speechless. What did you just do? Spick turned to him slowly. Its eyes glowed with symbols now. Alien letters spinning like data. Ray whispered, You're not just strong, you're connected to them. After the fight, Ray dragged the broken hunters outside. He didn't kill them. They were machines, maybe partly organic, but still alive. He tied them to a tree and hid their weapons. Inside the cabin, Spike paced, like a wild animal, but it wasn't angry. It looked confused. Ray sat down and rubbed his aching shoulder. They weren't here for me. They were here for you. Spick looked at him. For the first time, it bowed its head. Later that night, Ray tried using an old alien translator on Spick's growl patterns. It was slow, but after hours of work, the device picked up a signal. Words, hidden in sound. I'm not property. I was left behind. Ray froze. You can speak? Spick nodded slowly. It didn't speak with a mouth. It spoke through tech, through frequency. Ray whispered, Why did they abandon you? Spick didn't answer, but its tail curled close to its body, its ears folded down. Pain. Next morning, Ray turned on the radio. The Empress herself was making a public announcement. My beloved predator cub, stolen and lost, must be returned unharmed. It is mine. Anyone who hides it shall be punished. No mercy. Ray turned off the radio. She's lying, he muttered. You weren't stolen. You were discarded. Spick stood beside him, quiet. Ray looked at the cub. You're not a weapon, not a pet. You're alive. And you chose me. Spick slowly climbed into Ray's lap. The predator rested its head on his chest. But far away, aboard a giant alien battleship, the Empress stood before a screen. Her generals bowed low. One of them spoke. "Your Majesty, the cub resisted 3 of our finest. It activated a royal pulse." The Empress's lips curled. "It has awakened." She turned to a soldier. "Send in the true hunter, the one that cannot be tamed. If the human gets in the way, eliminate him." Her eyes burned like fire. The cub was born to rule, not to bond with a human. Ray was repairing the cabin door when he noticed something strange. Spick was sitting outside on a rock, staring at its own paw. It tilted its head, then lifted the claw slowly, almost like it was confused. Ray stepped closer. "You okay, buddy?" Spick looked up, then slowly turned its paw toward Ray. That's when he saw it. Right below the fur, hidden until now, a strange mark was glowing beneath the skin, dim but clear. Not a wound, not a scar. It was a symbol. 3 interlocked rings, with sharp edges glowing silver and gold. Ray crouched down, shocked. That's royal. He'd seen that mark once before, a long time ago, in a war museum. It was the emblem of the imperial line of Zalvir, the symbol used only by the Empress's bloodline, not her pets. Her heirs. Inside the cabin, Ray grabbed his old datapad and scanned the mark using a translation chip. The result made his blood run cold. Subject classification: XZ01 status, Imperial offspring, Class V Alpha Protocol, do not harm, must return for royal activation. Ray whispered, "You're not her pet." He looked at Spick. "You're her child." Spick paced the room. It looked restless, uneasy. Ray spoke softly. "You're remembering, aren't you? Bit by bit." Spick paused, then nodded. It moved to the window and stared at the sky, as if listening to voices only it could hear. Then it turned back to Ray, and for the first time, it spoke through the translator. "She left me in the fire. I cried. She walked away." Ray sat down, stunned. "Your own mother," Spike said. Nothing, just lowered its head. That night thunder cracked over the forest. Rain poured hard. Ray couldn't sleep. He sat beside Spick near the fire. "I don't care who you were born to," he said. "What matters is who you are now. You saved me. You learned. You stayed." Spick looked at him with calm eyes. Ray smiled. "You're not just a predator. You're my family now." But far above Earth, the Empress was watching. Her hunters had failed. The cub had awakened early. This changed everything. She stood before a chamber of her council generals, her robe flowing behind her like shadows. One general asked, "Do we still want it back, Empress?" The Empress turned slowly. "No. Now. We must control it." She walked to a vault and opened a sealed box. Inside was a crystal, the same shape as the glowing mark on Spike's claw. She held it high. "This," she said, "is the key of obedience. If I activate this, my child will bow again, even if it breaks him." Meanwhile, back on Earth, Ray noticed Spike acting strange. It twitched, whined, scratched at the mark on its paw. "What's wrong?" Ray asked. Spike's voice came through the translator again. "She's calling me. She wants me to kneel. She will hurt me if I don't." Ray stood up, furious. "She's trying to control you." Spick growled at itself. Its body shook, tail lashing. Ray grabbed Spick's face gently. "You don't have to go back. You hear me? You choose who you are." Spike's breathing calmed. Its eyes stopped glowing. For now. But just as they found peace, the ground shook. Boom. Something landed outside the cabin. Something huge. Ray ran to the door and peeked through the cracks. His heart dropped. A black walker. 4 legs. Taller than his house. A royal war beast. On its back sat the true hunter, covered in obsidian armor. holding a whip made of light. The hunter spoke into a loudspeaker. "This is the last warning. Hand over the cub, or this place will burn." Ray's hands trembled, but not with fear, with anger. He looked at Spig. The cub's eyes blazed, its claws extended. No more confusion, no more fear. Ray whispered, "Let's show them. You're not a pet anymore." Spig nodded. Together they stepped into the storm. Lightning flashed across the sky. Rain poured hard over the forest, soaking the ground and turning it to mud. But Ray didn't move. He stood just outside the cabin, soaked to the skin, his old rifle in hand. Beside him, Spig stood tall, no longer just a cub. Its muscles were tight, fur bristling, golden eyes glowing like fire. Before them, the Empress's war beast stomped the earth. Its red eyes scanned the area, and the true hunter stepped down, long black cape dragging behind. He raised his voice, cold and calm. "Human, step aside. The cub belongs to the Empress. You have no right." Ray didn't. "Blink. Then come take him." The hunter moved fast. One flick of his wrist and a whip of glowing light cracked toward Ray. But before it touched him, Spig leapt. Claws met energy. The whip shattered midair. The hunter stumbled back. "So, the beast defends its master now?" Ray shouted. "I'm not his master, he's family." Spig roared, not like a cub, but like a king. It charged, striking the war beast with such force that it shook. The hunter recovered, drawing twin blades now glowing red. Spig and the hunter clashed, claws and swords, fury and skill. Ray could only watch in awe. Spig wasn't just fighting. He was remembering. Flashes filled Spig's mind. He saw himself, smaller, trapped in a golden cage on a high tower. He remembered the Empress's face, cold and silent. He had cried for her once. She had turned away. And now she wanted him back. But not as a child, as a weapon. Spig ducked a blade, slashed across the hunter's armor, then turned and growled. His voice came through Ray's old translator. "I am not yours. I was never yours. I choose my own path." The hunter pressed a button on his wrist. Suddenly, a blue beam shot down from the sky, directly onto Spig's body. Spig screamed. Ray rushed forward. "Spig!" The beam wasn't a weapon. It was a summon signal, a forced teleport. The Empress was pulling Spig back to her ship. Spig's body began to glow, breaking apart in light. Ray reached out and grabbed Spig's paw. "I won't let them take you." But the light was too strong. There was a flash, blinding, and then silence. Ray was alone. When he woke, the cabin was destroyed. The war beast and hunter were gone. And so was Spig. Ray crawled to his knees. He looked at the sky, fists clenched. They took him. But deep down, he felt something, a warmth in his hand. He looked down. In his palm, Spig had left behind one of his claws, glowing with the same royal mark, still warm, still pulsing, still connected. Above the earth, on the imperial flagship, Spig stood in a silver room surrounded by tall guards and shining lights. He was no longer in chains, but he wasn't free. The Empress entered the room. Her eyes were calm. Her robe shimmered with stars. She walked up to Spig and looked down. "You've grown," she said softly. Spig didn't respond. She placed her hand on his shoulder. "You were never meant to be alone. You were meant to lead armies, rule worlds. Come back to your place. Forget the human, he's nothing." Spig's eyes narrowed. Then his voice echoed across the room. "He fed me when I was starving. He carried me when I couldn't walk. He called me by a name, not a number. He's everything you're not." The Empress's face turned to stone. She raised her hand to strike him. Spig didn't flinch. Back on Earth, Ray began building. He knew Spig was alive. He could feel it in his chest. The claw in his hand pulsed sometimes, like a signal, a heartbeat. "Ray, worked day and night repairing his radio tower, sending out encrypted signals. Each night he spoke into the mic. Spick, you're not alone. I'm still here. I'm not giving up on you. And far above in a lonely royal chamber, Spick curled on the floor, but he was smiling. He could hear the signal. He could hear Ray. Stars blinked in the cold darkness of space. Inside her towering palace ship, the Empress of Zalvir sat on her crystal throne, staring at her son. Spick, her blood, stood below the high steps, silent but unbowed. She had given him new armor, a golden collar, a private chamber, but he had not spoken since the day she summoned him. He didn't eat the royal food. He didn't train with her generals. He just stared at the sky, waiting. She thought silence would break him. She was wrong. Spike had changed, not in body but in heart. He had tasted something on Earth that the Empire never gave him. Choice. He remembered the scent of rain on wood, the sound of Ray's soft voice when he told silly stories, the feel of old blankets beside a fire, the way Ray said, "Good boy," and patted his head like it mattered. He missed it. He missed home. That night, the Empress called him again, this time with others watching, her court, her soldiers, and high-ranking scientists. "Activate the air," she ordered. The room dimmed. A strange machine powered up behind Spike. Wires sparked with purple light. The scientist whispered, "This will unlock the predator mind," one said. "Make him loyal again." Spike didn't move. The Empress stepped forward. "You were born to conquer, not to follow a human farmer." She nodded. The machine pulsed. But then, a sound broke through. From far away, from Earth, from Ray. A signal. Spick's claw, still marked, began to glow inside the royal armor. "Spick, if you can hear me, I didn't stop calling. I'll wait, as long as it takes. You're not alone." The voice echoed in Spick's mind, and something snapped. Spick roared, not with fear, with power. His armor cracked apart. The collar burned off. The royal mark on his claw blazed with white fire. The machine behind him exploded. Sparks flew. Guards rushed forward, but Spick was already gone. He leapt through the air, claws tearing through doors, speed unmatched. One guard shouted, "He's heading for the launch bay." The Empress screamed, "Stop him! Stop the beast!" But it was too late. Spike burst into the ship's hangar, ripped through the locks, and dove into a small scout ship. The controls lit up the second he touched them, recognizing royal blood. The doors slammed shut, the engines roared, and the runaway prince vanished into the stars. Back on Earth, Ray stood by his homemade radio, eyes tired, voice rough from days of calling. He whispered again into the mic, "Wherever you are, come home, kid." Suddenly a loud beep, a signal. Then, a shadow across the moon. Ray looked up. His heart stopped. A single starship, black and silver, was coming down fast. It hit the ground like thunder, dirt flying in all directions. Ray ran, toward it, rifle forgotten, eyes wide. The hatch hissed open, smoke poured out. And then, Spick stepped through, but he wasn't a cub anymore. He was bigger, taller than Ray's shoulder, his claws sharper, his fur darker. But his eyes, they were still golden, still the same. Ray smiled. "You came back." Spick growled softly, then rushed forward and tackled Ray in a hug. Ray laughed and fell over. Okay, you're still heavy." That night they sat by the fire once more. Ray handed Spick a plate of roasted meat. Spick sniffed it, then ate it in one bite, just like before. Ray looked at him. "She'll come. You know that, right?" Spick nodded. Ray said, "Then we'll be ready." Spick looked up at the stars again. "She had my name. But you gave me my soul." Ray stared. Spick smiled, and for the first time, he spoke without the translator. "Father." Ray's eyes filled with tears. "You finally said." That far above, the Empress stood on her balcony. A general ran to her. "He's back on Earth." She didn't move. "We have the coordinates." Shall we send the army? The Empress turned. No. The general blinked. No? She narrowed her eyes. I will go. Myself. A strange silence filled the forest. No birds. No wind. Ray stood outside his cabin, staring at the sky. The stars weren't blinking anymore. They were moving. Dozens of royal ships, black and gold, were entering Earth's orbit, like storm clouds made of metal. The largest one, shaped like a blade, hovered directly over Ray's land, and then it began to descend. Speak stood beside Ray. No longer a cub. No longer confused. He wore no armor, no crown. But his presence alone made the trees seem smaller. His golden eyes watched the sky, steady and calm. Ray looked at him. You don't have to fight her. Spick didn't answer. He stepped forward. The royal ship touched the ground. Steam hissed. From within the glowing doorway, the Empress emerged. She wore robes made of starlight. Her crown floated slightly above her head, turning slowly. Eyes cold, skin like silverstone. Behind her marched 10 shadow guards, silent and armed, but she raised one hand. They stopped. She walked alone toward the human and her son. Ray held his ground. He didn't speak, but his hand touched Spick's back, a silent promise. I'm here. The Empress finally stopped a few steps away. She looked at Ray first, then at Spick. So this is what you ran to? She said, voice like ice. A man who talks to dirt and animals. Ray stayed quiet. Spick answered. He gave me a name. The Empress raised an eyebrow. Spike, a weak sound. You were born XZ01, blood of fire meant to rule. Spick growled low. Ray spoke for the first time. He didn't ask to be born in chains. The Empress turned sharply. He was born to lead. You're a parasite. Ray smiled. Then why? Did he come back to me? The Empress stepped closer to her son. Come now, enough games, kneel, return, I will forgive this. Spike looked at her, long, hard. Then, he turned his back and walked toward Ray. Each step was slow, deliberate, like the end of a chapter. The Empress's face did not change, but her voice shook with quiet fury. You dare? Spike stopped. You left me to die. He stayed. I choose, I the human. She raised her hand and the guards rushed forward. Ray reached for his rifle, but Spick stood tall and spread his arms wide. From the mark on his claw, light exploded. Not fire, not sound. Memory, a burst of pure memory, seen, felt, and heard by all around him. Guards dropped their weapons. They saw it. Spike's lonely nights in a cage, his cries, the coldness in the Empress's eyes, and Ray, offering food, shelter, kindness. Tears formed in one of the guards' eyes. Another fell to one knee. The Empress screamed, "Stop it!" But it was too late. The truth was shared, and the Empire saw it. The guards backed away. One of them removed their helmet and looked at the Empress. Your Majesty. We were told lies. She slapped him. Ray stepped forward. It's over. The Empress looked at him with hate. You think he's yours? Ray didn't blink. He's not mine. He looked at Spick. He chose me. Spick moved closer and stood beside Ray, no longer behind him, like an equal, a son, a warrior. The Empress stepped back, then turned. She walked slowly toward her ship. She spoke without looking. Enjoy your little kingdom, human. But know this. Royalty does not forget. Then she was gone. The ship lifted silently into the clouds. No fire, no threats, just silence. Later that night, Ray and Spick sat by the fire again. No words, just peace. Spick looked up at the stars. She'll come again. Ray nodded. Then we'll be ready. Or maybe we won't have to be. Spike tilted his head. Ray smiled. You already changed everything, kid. Maybe others like her can change too. In the distance, stars shone, brighter, and in the heart of a forest, a predator once raised to be a weapon lay curled by a fire, snoring softly. safe, home, loved.